It's Brainwash with Dr. Tom and Guitar Picks with Rob Seals, Michael Hedges, All Along the Watchtower.
Well, I thought it'd be interesting to pick another version of this classic Bob Dylan song. And Michael Hedges, first of all, if you're not familiar with him, was a groundbreaking, principally acoustic guitar player. He would call himself a composer who also played guitar. I say was. He died in a car accident in, I believe it was 1997 in California. The first time I saw Michael Hedges play was at a small club in Knoxville, Tennessee called Ella Guru's, and it was one of those places where you could have dinner and then you're sitting, feet from the stage, and then everybody's just completely silent, and the musician comes out and plays the show. And I had never been to a concert like that before, and this is not like the guy in the corner of your bar playing Brown Eyed Girl or something. This was a real concert, and he immediately outed the guitar players in the room because we all had our jaws basically in our laps, because this guy, he sounded like about four guys playing acoustic guitar, and I had never seen anybody approach the guitar the way he does. And since I hadn't tuned the guitar down, like his cover of All Along the Watchtower is so interesting. I'll give you the sort of the layman's bastardized, simple, a different tuning of it. But basically, this really aggressive right hand and then left hand percussive harmonic thing, where he's reaching around the guitar and he's also slapping the guitar, and you'll hear him do it in a different key, but. It wasn't just the pyrotechnics of the technique of the reaching across the guitar and slapping the guitar in the context of the song, but it was the sort of the union that he had with this instrument. I mean, he was that thing. He was it, and it was him, and he rode it like a horse through the show. And at the same time, it really felt like his technique was secondary to his composition. The guy was using these altered tunings, these open tunings, and the guitar's voicing just sounded different from anything I'd ever heard. And I hadn't really experimented at that point with open tunings, and still don't extensively, but he was one of the first people to get me excited about what the guitar could do beyond the boundaries of just the standard tuning and your G, C, and D chords.
It's a Brainwash with Dr. Tom and Guitar Picks with Rob Seals, Jimi Hendrix, All Along the Watchtower.
Well, I thought it'd be interesting to do a little section on cover songs, because I didn't put Bob Dylan on my list, and I have the same birthday as Bob Dylan, not the same actual day. I'm younger, but May 24th, and certainly I have tremendous respect for Dylan as a writer, but yet he wasn't a writer who I would really honestly cite as an influence. But I thought it would be interesting to, of all the Hendrix songs, to choose this cover. Number one, because I think it's one of the all-time coolest beginnings to any rock and roll song ever recorded. But number two, I'm very much fascinated with the idea of how do you take what you learn from someone else and make it your own. How do you take a song and make it your own? I began playing in essentially cover bands in high school, and then I was in an acoustic duo that played predominantly cover songs in college and after college. And songwriting gradually became my thing, and my own songs gradually came to the fore. But to me, seeing how a masterful musician such as Hendrix could take a song and really get at the core of it in a way that Dylan might never have envisioned, and yet totally loved and completely sanctioned. It's a stunning, powerful piece, and it also just showcases not so much the skill and dexterity of Hendrix, but his ability to sort of reinvent the voice of the guitar and the tones and the colors that you could get on the guitar.
Tell us about the college experience.
Oh, my college experience?
Yeah.
It was great, man. No, I went to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I graduated, incidentally, just a couple of years before the Dave Matthews Band sort of blew up, and so there was acoustic music was actually a big thing there in the pre-Dave time, and so it's no surprise to me that a band pre-DMB that a band with a guitar at the heart of it could make such a splash. I played in a duo called Seals and Butler, and I was Seals, and that's how we were able to keep that straight. He was Butler. We never changed that, kept it. Of course, we stood so that stage left to right we were Seals and Butler, but from the audience it always confused people because we looked like Butler and Seals. Like you go see Hall and Oates, for instance. Hall's over there on the left. You know, it makes sense, but we weren't that bright, I guess. But I didn't take my electric guitar to college because I decided I was in bands in high school and I loved my bands in high school. But I felt like I wanted to meet players that I connected with on a deeply personal and musical level, and not just because, oh, dude, yeah, I play the bass and I live down the hall, and you're sort of thrown together in a band for better or worse. And so I took my time, and when I found Ellis Butler, we really connected in some ways, but we were actually very different. His background was a little more country, and he also loved John Denver, and I was sort of looking at him like, what are you talking about? See, now the metalhead guys are on my side now, right? But I think the confluence of two different influences can make for really interesting stuff, and he really turned me on to close harmony singing and the kind of tight vocal arrangements that we used to like to do.
It's Brainwash with Dr. Tom and Guitar Picks with Rob Seals. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Little Wing.
Oh, gosh. Stevie Ray Vaughan. I was driving to a gig in Georgetown, D.C. when I heard on the radio that he had died in a helicopter crash, and there have been a couple of times in my life where I have felt a sense of loss for a musician like that, and that was really one of those times. And it's so fascinating when you go back and see footage of Stevie Ray playing, and when he was deep in the throes of addiction versus when he got clean. And you often hear about artists who, when they get clean, they sort of lose whatever that despairing quality was in the throes of their addiction that made them special. But I think for Stevie Ray, he just had this gift that so transcended the context of his earthly life, and the joy that poured out of his guitar when he was clean was every bit as soaring as any of the sorrow that came out when he was in the throes of his depression. And the reason I chose Little Wing is I came to Hendrix sort of through the back door. I listened to Hendrix when I was first learning guitar, but I didn't really get him, and he didn't really move me. But when I heard Stevie Ray reinterpreting, I heard two things. One, I heard the beauty of Hendrix. I also heard a slavish disciple of Hendrix. But I also heard how Stevie Ray had found a way to make Hendrix his own. He had internalized those licks, and yet they came out of Stevie Ray sounding only like Stevie Ray. And so even though he took great pains to do Jimi Hendrix great justice, it was also inescapably Stevie Ray Vaughan coming out of him. And that was one of the first times that I understood something I had read in guitar magazines for years, and that is, you'd hear people talk about who are your influences, And I always thought, well, I mean, there's only so many chords, G, A minor, B minor, C, and there's only so many notes in the Western scale. I mean, like, how does anyone have a style? I mean, how do you possibly have a style? And I began to see that it's sort of like this great stew, that everything you read and listen to and hear and learn and play goes into that stew, and some of it gets lost, and some of it really seeps in and becomes the essential flavor and ingredient to what you're about. And when Stevie Ray played, it was Stevie Ray, but then you would hear those moments of Jimi Hendrix coming out. And so, there's so many licks that everybody steals from Stevie Ray, but you just can't get at that kind of soul in the phrasing that the guy had. And I don't know, I get choked up when I hear him. It's just powerful.